From the heights of New York City, welcome to Inwood Artworks On Air. It's where we meet the musicians, filmmakers, writers, theater makers, and artists of all stripes who make their home in what we affectionately call Upstate Manhattan. I'm Aaron Sims.
I'm Jonathan Bell.
And this is Live and Local. It's our podcast dedicated to showcasing musicians of Upper Manhattan. We talk to them about what they do, and best of all, listen to them perform live in one of our favorite local venues. Today, we are excited to welcome multi-instrumentalist, singer-songwriter, record producer, filmmaker, and creator of the YouTube show, The Anarchy Fun House, Adam Fellows. Born in 1971 in Fort Huachuca, Arizona, and raised in the Catholic blue-collar suburb of Baltimore County, Adam moved to New York City in 1992 to become a rock star. He played countless gigs in dive bars and clubs while also honing his recording engineering skills, eventually building his modestly successful recording studio in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. After Adam and his wife's first child was born in 2007, he began a new career as a stay-at-home dad. It was during these years that Adam dived into filmmaking, producing short films and music videos for musical acts, including Coyote Love, Thomas Denman, Terminal Service, and many others. And during the pandemic lockdown of 2020, while Adam was brainstorming music video ideas with his teenage daughter for his original song, Space Girls Will Save Us, she pitched, "What about a dark kids show, Dad?" And the Anarchy Fun House was born. We're going to talk about that and so much more with him, including his music. But first, ladies and gentlemen, let's listen to Adam Fellows.
A whisper there between us and the void. Sick with fever, a virus to destroy. Savage spirits, cursed to be aware. Content and hopeless, smoking cigarettes of lead. At them pop cataclysms warping through my fabric of time. Spicing my way through angels on my way to paradise. They all died in vain. Sealed off in plastic and breathing through a straw. Duct tape eyes and dots to the world. The time is shrinking between cradle and the grave as our slither of earth dwindles away, while the rich fleeing into space. At them pop cataclysms warping through my fabric of time, slicing my way through angels on my way to paradise. They all died in vain. Oh, there's oil running through our hearts. There's oil running through our hearts. It didn't have to be this way. It didn't have to be this way. It didn't have to be this way. And then pop cataclysms warping through my fabric of time, slicing my way through angels on my way to paradise. They all died in vain. The end of a tether pulling might happens, designed for destruction, food for the dead. Eyeball bubbles twisting through the smog, hermetically sealed and closed off from the world. Roped up and swinging, wonder queens, bathe your tongues in the twilight. Smashed into atoms, but we never seem to want to get it right. Deep in my pocket, a sanctum of dreams, fingering ashes, filling with teeth. Files of wraith drain into the sea. Eloquent monsters echo with glee. Roped up and swinging, wonder queens, bathe your tongues in the twilight. Smashed into atoms, but we never seem to want to get it right. Space girls will save us from ourselves. Millions of eyes tilted into the glow. Feral ghouls wearing grave-made clothes. A trick of the bones and ribbons of code, sinking through flesh and turning people to ghosts. Roped up and swinging wonder queens, bathe your tongues in the twilight. Smashed into atoms, but we never seem to ever get it right. Smashed, smashed into atoms. Smashed, smashed into atoms. Smashed, smashed into atoms. Smashed, smashed into atoms.
Adam, that was fantastic, man.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. It's great to see you.
Thanks for
How you
having me.
been?
I've been okay. It's been okay. It's been okay.
Hey, you know what? Okay, it's pretty good these days. We'll take okay,
You
right?
get that, yeah.
Good, very good. Would you mind please telling us what you just played for us?
Slicing Through Angels was the first song, and Space Girls Will Save Us was the second song.
Cool.
Well, I'm going to definitely need you to educate me for
Sure.
sure in terms of where you're coming from. But I definitely want to know more about how your combination of sort of quirky, theatrical, a little bit punkish, Muppets, Elvis Costello. I mean, there's a lot of things that floated through my head, but I did have trouble, not in a bad way. It's just like it's just a very somewhat eccentric, and what's the word? There's another E word I'm looking. Eclectic. That was the word I was. There's such an eclectic vibe to your music that it was just it strained my ability to really cite a clear constellation of influences. So I
Sure.
look forward to you letting me know.
Oh my goodness.
Which means it might be a constellation of influences.
No, it's a hearty stew of stuff.
No doubt.
I come from a pretty extensive theatrical background as a child.
Mhm.
You know, I was in theater from time middle school through high school, a few plays and musicals a year. So I have the basic just wanting to just shout it out to the world and tell a story and just
Right.
be very musical about it. But I do come from also a very post-punk,
Right.
postmodern, late 70s, early 80s world. And plus, though, then there's Beatles, and then there's Steely Dan, and then
Right.
Prince.
Right.
It's like all of this stuff just kind of weaved into my my fabric.
That was a nice trifecta there.
Yeah,
Steely Dan, Beatles, and
Prince.
Prince. Nice.
Yeah. That's I don't do it consciously anymore.
Right.
It just kind of all comes out.
And then on top of that, there's the lyrics side
Well, yeah,
too, which is a whole other.
that's a whole other.
Yeah.
But I think it's really cool is that trifecta you just spoke of. I think we can all agree it's a tremendous pop rock sensibility
Yes.
to his tunes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really cool. But what's also cool about the tunes, and I think lyrically, which is cool, is that the songs aren't all about like bad breakups and hey, let's go out in the town on Saturday or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like not just like mindless pop music, which is a place for, I have to say.
Sure.
I enjoy it just like anybody
Absolutely.
else does. But yeah, you have a keen sense for social issues, I think. I mean, even your other tracks, like in your catalog, like 4:40 a.m., I think, and
Right, yeah.
and then the songs from the Anarchy Fun House as well. I think it's a really interesting, effective juxtaposition that it's like a spoonful of sugar, or the music, it rides to it, and all of a sudden you're becoming aware of things that, oh, I didn't know we were going to talk about climate change or something like that. And can you, I mean,
Well, it's funny that you bring up 4:40 a.m. because I think that was one of the first songs that I ever wrote to address something.
Oh.
And this is like, I think I wrote that song. What year is it? Maybe 20 years ago.
But you're only 21 years old. How's that
exactly.
possible?
I know, it's crazy. It's just, one meal a day. Yeah, I think that was like one of the first songs that I wrote addressing just kind of like becoming aware of like where I grew up, what it was, I had a lot of questions when I turned like 30. It was like, why are things the way they are? Why did I grow up in a white neighborhood? And what did that mean for me? What did I miss out on as far as like other people were concerned? And like was like my church and my parents and the people around me keeping me away from certain things, the television, movies, telling me things about other people, not in a good light, So that was like one of the first songs that I wrote, remember writing, wanting to just address things, and like, but not address them to like a listener, but to explore what it meant for me as a person. Mm-hmm. And since then, I kind of can't write a song, or lyrically speaking, without just kind of like, okay, who am I? My place in the world. What have I learned, and how can I share? And in that kind of regard, and like now it's like full tilt press with like, because we can go into the quarantine, I guess, because I hadn't written a song probably since 2011. 2011.
Wow.
I had been writing fiction prose for years before the pandemic, and then once we went into lockdown in March, I have 2 children now, one 9, one 14, and they were just going to be home. I decided to take a break from writing. I figured, I guess like most people thought, it was going to be 6 to 8 weeks. We just got to ride this out, and we'll just be chill. And I was just going to stop working. I pulled out all my stuff out of my closet, fixed up all my instruments, and just kind of started playing covers with friends. Space Girls Will Save Us was like the first, I got kind of tired of the covers, and I was like, I had this nice chord progression. Mm-hmm. I had just been messing around with. And I had a melody. And I guess I had a lot to say, right. Just pertaining to this, the particular situation that we had all found ourselves in.
Right. Well,
yeah. I guess at the end of the day, watching how fragile society is, mm-hmm. how easily it could just all be gone. It's all of a sudden I had a lot to say, and I was filling up notebooks of lyrics. And
sometimes you need, art spans from your relationship to life, and in your real life, you have to fill the tank in order to go, right?
Right. But there was a new emotion this time that didn't exist before. There's anger.
Yeah.
Just helplessness.
Yeah.
Being angry but not being able to do anything about it, and then just kind of just like, okay, fine, I'll just funnel this into what I can funnel it into, and that's where the show came from.
So the other salient disruptive biographical moment was becoming a father.
Yeah.
So it seems, although it's a small sample size, those are 2 moments that were catalysts for creativity in the form of disruption,
sure,
in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe you can, if you want, speak to that, because we've certainly had guests where disruption has shut down their creativity. So maybe there's something about that helps generate that creativity for you. And secondly, I didn't know. Sorry that I didn't know, but I didn't know that you were a prose writer. So I'm also interested in the specific requirements of writing fiction or prose or nonfiction, whatever it is that you do, or poetry, versus writing lyrics. One of the reasons it's interesting to me is I've worked with writers who have signed up to work collaborative with me on some opera projects and have discovered that, geesh, writing words, libretto, is really a lot harder than I thought. It's a completely different animal. So those two topics, if I was clear, I don't know.
Oh, well, I mean, I've always written ever since a child. The first thing I wanted to be was a journalist, and that kind of went into being a novelist.
Okay.
And I did that all up until I was almost 17 or 18, until I the rock stardom called.
Right.
And I kind of just left that behind. I mean, I all through my 20s and my 30s, I wrote, but not full time.
Right.
Not every day. You don't really get good at it. You do stuff every day, and then you work with other people tell you, no, that's bad, do this. And that's what I started doing. I guess it was 2011. Well, I mean, you talk about disruption. Well, I have no problem bringing this. I'm a recovering alcoholic. I got sober in 2010. And I hadn't really been doing much a few years prior to that because I was on my way to the bottom.
I see.
But as soon as a few months after I quit drinking, that was a disruptive moment. You're just like, life just changes overnight. And for the year and a half I wrote an hour and a half concept record. Just all this music, just the Band-Aid got pulled off, all this stuff just flooded out. And it was supposed to be a rock opera. The idea was it was not dissimilar to something like The Wall, where you just found yourself boxed in, and then you break free. And so that was and to get back into it was just it was just this beautiful thing, and I meeting all these different musicians and having come and record. But after the year and a half, and after I had finished recording all this music, it's just not very easy to put on a rock opera. It's not easy, and I learned that pretty soon into it. And so the rock opera just kind of became a concept record, just getting all of my feelings out. I mean, prior to getting sober, my mother died. So there was just all this stuff that needed to get worked out. And really the only way that I could work it out was musically. Just music.
It makes a lot of sense to me that was a project to do, a rock opera.
Sure.
Hearing the little that I've heard today, it just, and now knowing that you're sort of your literary bent, you have an identity as much as a writer as you do a musician.
Sure.
And that brings a different perspective compared to some other people that, we have who don't necessarily come from that writing.
Right.
It's interesting you bring it up, and thanks to Adam too for being so open with everything, because we always are interested, and I think it's always so helpful to hear about process. I mean,
absolutely.
And some people start with just fiddling around. Some people start with if it is with melody of some kind, perhaps that they're humming around in their head and kicking around, and you start from a place of pure, reflective, a lot of reflection and putting it into words.
Well, he did say he was knocking around a chord progression.
Well, that's true too. Yeah.
But there's always chord
Well, the point is I guess my point is what's the entry point? Do you know what I mean? The entry point, and it all informs. And I think it's helpful what you said to anybody listening here. And we do have people I know for a fact who've been on the show who listen to this, they're always open to ideas of how do they get, it's maybe they haven't written in a while, or they have something they thought about 10 years ago that they just haven't found, and they've written other things, a rock opera or whatever else, but they've never found that right pour for that idea to express itself.
And not only, but perhaps especially the singer-songwriter types.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. But this actually segues, I think, perfectly into your latest project, the Anarchy Fun House.
Right.
It's I'll just say the official description is you describe as a surreal expressionistic show using live action, puppets, animation, and music that takes a playful look at the world's most intractable issues, from structural racism to capitalism and to climate change. And if I can unpack that, I think it feels more like you can say it might be described as an activist-oriented Pee-wee's Playhouse in many ways. You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, it's really, and Jonathan mentioned the Muppets earlier. It plays into that whole, I think, is, you know, Pee-wee's was educational, it was fun, it had great pop tunes here and there in it, obviously amazing talent involved, and also you did learn something without even knowing you're learning something, which I think, like we talked about earlier, how the pop songs kind of bring in that sensibility to what you're writing about.
Mm-hmm. Right. It's, you know, it's just an accumulation of just everything. You know, everything that I've done in my life. Music, to the writing, to acting, to, you know, production.
Because you play like 20 characters in one episode, don't you, at one point? What was the one episode? How many characters you played?
Oh, no, it's just a handful, like 4 or 5.
Oh, 4 or 5? Okay.
A lot of it's voice acting.
Yeah.
There's a puppet worker. You know, I try not to put myself too much in it. But just to go back a little bit, it's leading up to it. It's like, it's the reason why I started writing fiction again, because I was getting, you know, after the concept record, I got into filmmaking, and I had done all this stuff for all these people, learning all this stuff. I figured, well, the next thing I had to do was probably do a short film or a movie. I was like to write a script. Well, you got to write a script where if it's like low, no budget, you know, and I didn't feel, after spending a year trying to find ideas and writing scripts, I couldn't get behind anything that you would need to spend 2 or 3 years on, which you have to do. So, and I had all these ideas all of a sudden, and I just figured, well, just write them. And it slowly evolved in like 5 years, every morning, 4 hours a day, right, 7 days a week, and I did, 5 years before the pandemic. Didn't do anything else. I just wrote, and went to classes. I got editors. I was up until the pandemic. I was looking for agents. Finally, had a book that I was ready to, show. We got all locked down, home with the kids, doing cover songs. I wrote a song, and like I was getting ready to do a music video for it. I just, but then George Floyd happened. He was murdered by the state. And it was like, after everything that we've been going through, it was like, why are we still dealing with this? And it's like, to make a silly music video for a song, it just didn't feel right to me. And I was like, I want to be part of the conversation. I want to start, I want to start learning. I want to, and my daughter, that's when she said, what about our kids show? And it was like, it just opened. I saw the line of like, hello friends, how would you like to die for capitalism? It just seemed to make sense, and just take everything that I have learned up until this point in my life and just all do it at the same. You just do all of it for one thing.
Right.
And it took a couple shows, and I, by the third and fourth show, I think I really kind of hit my stride with it. It's as far as aesthetic and tone, and it almost feels like that's the Anarchy Fun House was what I was meant to do all along.
Interesting.
So
it's a culmination of a lot of the different facets of yourself artistically, and also just in terms of your skills. I'm sure it helps that you have a producing and recording engineering background where you can pretty much do things yourself.
Right.
Where most people might have to bring on board that sort of expertise, I would imagine.
Yeah. So.
No, I'm very lucky, and to go back to your point very quickly. I don't want to. It was like as far as like the headspace for like prose writing and lyrical writing.
Right.
It is very too. It is. I do feel very different.
Right.
in my mind as I'm sitting down and like writing prose as opposed to writing lyrics or anything. Yes, I mean, it's a very different headspace. Absolutely.
Sure.
It's like I'm not
Proficiency in one doesn't guarantee anything.
right.
in the other.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, it's like I don't even know how. I'm not even sure how good I was as far as prose writing because I never really got that far. Even just because you're doing something that doesn't mean you're any good at it. So lyric. I have lots of experience and lots of time lyrics.
But this particular project brings together you being a father,
right?
brings together your humor, brings together your writing, brings together your theatrical sense that you've had since a teen, your musical interests. Like you said, it really does make a lot of sense.
Yeah, it really does.
That's cool.
And I want to share with our audience right now a clip from the Anarchy Fun House, which we're
great.
going to insert for people to listen and see. It's for the video for a song that Adam wrote called All It Took. There's a little bit of dialogue intro to it, I believe. Do you want to set it up, Adam?
Yeah. So in this episode, the latest episode, episode 4, What is Anarchy, Part 2, we are in a anarchist settlement called Samba Cay after the Great Collapse has happened. So climate collapse has happened. So we're about a generation ahead. So this is a settlement that has living in an anarchist life, and Emma is a 12-year-old girl who is born and raised in the settlement. She knows no other way. And then Jackie, who is much older and was a small child during the Great Collapse. So the power has went out at Samba Cay, and it's Jackie's responsibility to go to the substation to figure out what's going on. So Emma and Jackie are on their way to the substation. They have a little conversation, and Jackie goes into song.
And here it is. Enjoy All It Took from the Anarchy Fun House.
You were alive before the collapse, right?
Yes, but I was a small child.
Is it true that people went hungry, even though there was more than enough for everyone?
Yes.
And everyone was okay with that?
I wouldn't say that everybody was okay with it, but it was considered normal.
It was normal? For people to not have enough to eat?
I'm afraid so.
I'm so grateful I was born into this world.
It was already too late by the time they figured it out that they needed a healthy world to keep exploiting and steal their profits. All it took was the end of the world to be free from their greed and their violence of wealth. All it took was the end of the world to have dignity and a purpose to fulfill. I sat on the tracks, aware of the growing light, but forbidden to imagine another way, and forced to let it happen. All it took was the end of the world to be free from their greed and their violence of wealth. All it took was the end of the world to have dignity and a purpose to fulfill.
Let's go, Emma.
Look! It's the entrance to the substation.
Nice work at the Anarchy Fun House, and hope everybody enjoyed their time there. Please go back. There are 4 episodes, and there are more forthcoming. But before we leave Adam, I also we want to share one more song from Adam as well. What do you have for us?
This is a brand new song. It doesn't have anything to do with the Anarchy Fun House. It's a song I've been working on for a few weeks now. It's called Sinead Was Right, and it's kind of just something that's been sitting with me for a very long time, lyrically speaking.
Okay.
Many of you may or may not know Sinead O'Connor in 1993, I think, when she was on Saturday Night Live on the second song where she sung a cappella the song War, after the song, she held up a photo of the Pope and then ripped it up. And, fight, and then she said, "Fight the real enemy." And everybody flipped out because they didn't know what the heck she was talking about. And then, but it took a decade to realize, oh, that's what she was talking about. All the child abuse that's going in the Catholic Church for, well, God knows how long. Anyway, she was right. And so I've always wanted to just be able to just say that in song.
And here you are talking about it decades later.
Yeah.
So how about that?
So yeah, a new song called Sinead Was Right.
You're hearing it here first, folks, on Air. Enjoy Adam Fellows' Sinead Is Right.
I hate that I can do everything well, but nothing right. Jesus ain't got nothing on her. Sinead was right. Brittle brains, my head filled with bees. If I see it, it mustn't be real. An epic poem written with shards of stained glass from a bombed out church. I hate that I can do everything well, but nothing right. Jesus ain't got nothing on her. Sinead was right. Immaculate, born in a cage. God has cast you out the gallows away. A trail of ruined lives is a small price to pay for your salvation. Tear up that photograph in front of an eyeless world. Revolt against the absurd. She found what was hidden under your robes. Now earth will be your hell. Fight the real enemy. Fight the real enemy. God ain't real, but this is confessional, twisting in tongues. Millions of hands strangle the ones that they love. There's not enough holy water to wash away all the sins in these walls. I hate that I can do everything well, but nothing right. Jesus ain't got nothing on her. Sinead was right. Sinead was right.
Wow. Can you tell our listeners, please, like where they can go to hear more of your material? Different places online, websites?
Well, there's adamfellows.com, and there's a page of a bunch of music from just the past 10 years. A lot of those songs were sung by other singers, people covering my material. But there's about 10 songs on there. There's also SoundCloud, Adam Fellows, where it goes back a little further.
Okay.
But then, Anarchy Fun House on YouTube is pretty much where you're going to get all the flavors of Adam Fellows.
Okay. Okay.
That's the best place to start.
Well, listeners, you'll find those links in the description of this episode. And Adam, thank you so much for taking the time here to be with us here today.
Thank you for having me. This is awesome. I really do appreciate it.
Sure thing.
Thanks.
Sure thing. This is Inwood Artworks On Air. It's where we meet the musicians, filmmakers, writers, theater makers, and artists of all kinds who make their home here in Upper Manhattan. If you have a moment, please show some love to us right now by rating and reviewing this podcast on Apple Podcasts. It really helps, and please share it with your friends. Thanks to Hudson View Gardens for hosting us, and to HideSites.com for local uptown promotional support. Be sure to follow us on social media at Inwood Artworks to keep up with all that we do, including the Inwood Film Festival, Filmworks Al Fresco, pop-up galleries, live performances, and so much more. You can support On Air and all of our free programming by making a tax-free donation to us at inwoodartworks.nyc/donate. And we want to give special thanks to the support for this program by New York City Department of Cultural Affairs in partnership with City Council, and in part supported by a grant from NYC and Company Foundation with partial support from Manhattan Borough President Gail Brewer. From the top of Manhattan and the bottom of our hearts, thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Aaron Sims.
I'm Jonathan Bell.
For Inwood Artworks On Air.